only NBA championship. That Game 7 was on this day in 2016, one of the most famous games in NBA history. Speaking of LeBron, he's the subject of today's Talk to Me after he made some fascinating comments the other day about the NBA's ring culture. How should winning championships impact the way we perceive the all-time greats? LeBron, talk to me.
A ring is a team accomplishment. I don't know where it started. It's just it's a long conversation, especially when it comes to, like, you know, me individually. I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport. You tell me, you know, Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley and Steve Nash, you know, our wasn't unbelievable. Like, oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys is because this guy won one ring or won 2 rings or one, like, it's just weird to me. It's like saying Peyton Manning can't be in the same room with Brady or Mahomes because he only has 1 ring. Barry Bonds never won a World Series, and you can't sit here and tell me that he's not the greatest baseball player to ever touch a bat.
Okay, so, I mean, there's so much. He went in so many different directions very quickly because I know people will be yelling and screaming. Peyton Manning won 2 Super Bowls, not 1. But that obviously isn't his point because Brady won 7, and that's the point. The idea that we measure the greatness of players, at least in part, by counting the number of rings. Do you have an issue with it, or do you think it is an appropriate way of determining a player's legacy? Monica?
I do not have an issue with it, and I think it's fair. Now, what I will say is I think we all have to do a better job of acknowledging how hard it is to win. But, Greeny, if we have this invisible checklist when we're talking about the greats, if I don't subtract anything for you not having a ring, because those guys he's mentioned have been terrific, I'm going to give you +1 for each ring at the same time, and that's just how it goes. The point of sport is to be the last team, last player standing, and so to act as if we can't have a conversation and acknowledge the greatness of those that maybe did not get to that mountaintop is silly. But I'm also not going to act like the mountaintop is not worthy of a degree of praise.
Yes, the fact that it is so hard is the reason why we give credit to the people who scale it. Markeith, I'm interested in your perspective. As one, you've played your entire career in the ring counting era. What is your perspective on how heavily that should or shouldn't go into the equation when we judge the greatness of all-time greats?
I think I'm going to go with LeBron on this one. You know, it's twofold, right? You know, it's some great players that haven't won a ring that are not measured up. Kind of like what Monica said, they're not measured up with the greatest because they have won 1 or 2 rings, right? It takes away kind of what they really accomplished on the court because they haven't won a ring. You could take like a guy like AI, like, you know, a lot of times I can't win. It can't just be one player, you know, winning for the team. It's a team sport. I know, obviously, you know, LeBron's the best player. You take an example of the way basketball is played right now, right? It's handicapped because of the salary cap. So if I'm the best player and I'm doing everything that I can do to try to win, and my team isn't the greatest year in and year out, that can't be part of my legacy. That can't be a strike in my legacy because I can't get over the top, and it's not just me. Like, if you look at the stats, like LeBron type of player, I have, you know, 50,000 points. But obviously, I don't win every time. So is that against my legacy? It can't be. I mean, and like I said in the beginning, it takes away from what these guys have actually done on the court when it's a ring in front of everything.
We don't generally do this with baseball stars. No one ever talks about Ted Williams not being great because he didn't win the World Series. We don't generally do it with athletes except for basketball superstars and NFL quarterbacks. So, Harry, how about that? We definitely count the rings of the quarterbacks. Is that the right way for us to judge their greatness?
It might not be the right way, but I will say this. It can alter and put your legacy in a different capacity with everyone else. If you have the ability to win a ring, you are now in a different category than everyone else. Now, that's nothing to take away from, you know, an Allen Iverson or a Charles Barkley because, listen, AI went up against a Kobe Bryant, right? That's one of the, I would say, the top 3 or 4 players entirely in the NBA. Charles Barkley lost to Michael Jordan, who is the greatest of all time. When you look at the NFL in today's world, when you have a Lamar Jackson, a Joe Burrow, a Josh Allen, those guys not having a ring right now, Well, they're in the era of Patrick Mahomes. So you can understand it to a certain degree, but people are still going to say if they're able to get to a Super Bowl and win a ring, that puts them in a different category. And it's not to diminish anything that they have done up until that point, but if you have the ability to win at the highest of the highs, then your legacy is going to take a major jump.
Quick take, Joe.
LeBron's slick, and I think everyone's missing the point here because this right here is being presented as a, hey, look out for the little guy. Look out for Nash and Iverson and Marino and all the guys who don't get their rightful place in history because they didn't win. This is about reframing the GOAT conversation with Michael Jordan because he's passed Jordan in virtually every statistical category that matters except the championships. So now what do? We start politicking that championships aren't as valuable. Hey, look, it's a team concept. My team hasn't been there to put me over the top to get there with Jordan. I don't know why we talk about rings so much. It's not about rings. Let's look at the individual glory. For example, I'm the all-time leading scorer. It's a chance to reframe. It's very slick. It's very slick.
That's a point well made. It's a fascinating topic. Let me leave it there for the moment because I got something very special standing by, but I will come back to it as we continue. Right now I'm going to a place you're not expecting me to go, and that is TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut. The Travelers Championship is underway. This year's field features 18 of the top 20 players in the world, including number 2, Rory McIlroy, who will tee off at 10:35 with Keegan Bradley. And that group will be joined by our Adam Schefter, who is making his debut as a golf